Welcome back, Strategic Angling fans. It is another Strategic Angling Tuesday, brought to you by K&K True Value in Bettendorf, Iowa. This time I'm joined by my wonderful co-host JJ Patton, and you may notice we're in Patton Studios here out in Eldridge. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be just about the terminology and all about rod bending and rod actions and what those different things mean. So JJ, you want to give us a little brief history, and then we'll probably jump over and actually do some displaying this.
Yeah, we got some rods. Now, every one of these rods we're going to show you tonight is a Dobyns 4-power rod. There's different actions and different, which basically is the tip. Now, when you talk about a rod, the power is, in a Dobyns rod, is the 3, 4, 5, 6, the number at the end. In many companies it will be medium, medium heavy, heavy, extra heavy, ultra light, etc. So that's the power. Now the action is either usually moderate, moderate fast, fast, or extra fast. And we're going to try to show you with some demonstrations here what the difference is and why we're doing that, talk about what applications that particular action would have. Regardless of whatever brand of rod you choose, it would help you determine what the best rod for your application is. Just like you wouldn't hit a 3-wood if you're 75 yards out from the green, you'd want a pitching wedge. So you need to adjust based on what you're using, and that gives you the best chance for success.
Very good. So we're going to jump over and do a little bit displaying. I'm going to maybe ask you some questions about the terminology, and you can explain what each one of those means.
Perfect.
All right. So this is a little bit rudimentary, but we got a nice white backdrop with some good lighting. JJ, what's the first thing you're going to show us on this rod?
This is a 7-foot 4-power. This is a moderate action. This is a rod that you would use for a crankbait or a treble hook bait. Some people like them for small swim baits with light wire hooks. It's got a lot of give. You can see the rod almost can bend into a C. The more you pull, the rod bends all the way down to here. And you still got plenty of backbone, but you have a lot of flex here, and that's good for when you're using a treble hook or when you're smallmouth fishing and they're jumping and they're fighting you. It just gives a lot of give and allows you to have a little bit more room for error when you're fighting a fish. It also allows the crankbait to have a little bit more action, and that tip is good for jerk baits and topwaters because it's loose and it will kind of allow you to work the bait a little bit better.
Okay, very good. So what is our next? So that's moderate.
So that was a moderate. Now this is a Dobyns 734. This is described as fast action. You can see it flexes pretty much down to about here pretty well. This is probably a slower than an average fast action rod. It happens to be my favorite rod for moving baits. It kind of is a combination you're going to see between the moderate and then the fast action. This is good for moving baits like spinner baits, buzz baits, chatter baits, swim jigs, things like that you're cranking usually with a single hook. It has goes to backbone a little quicker than a crankbait rod, but not quite as quick as a flipping rod would. The next one is this is probably a true fast action rod. This is happens to be a 610-4, which is again is a 4-power. You can see on this one, it's pretty much up about right here where it really gets to backbone. You can really see it get to the meat of the rod there. So there's a little bit of tip, but gets the backbone about here, which kind of helps. This is a good rod also for spinner baits, but for jigs, Texas rigs, pretty good all-around rod. A fast action rod is probably your best all-around rod that you can get. And then finally, again, we're sticking with 4-power. So all these rods are the same power. This is a 744. Now this is an extra fast action, and if you look at this one, you look at that tip, you're way up about here when it goes to backbone. Now this is a really good rod for a jig or a Texas rig. The tip helps you provide accurate casting, but it gets extremely powerful extremely quick. So when you set the hook, you move that fish out of whatever they're in and into your net, hopefully. It's a good, like I said, single hook, flipping, pitching rod. An extra fast tip is also good for a frog, and the reason is you want the rod to get the backbone real quick, but you also want a little bit of tip for when you're working the frog and walking the dog. It allows you to work that frog a little bit better. So you would probably use more than a 4-power, but that extra fast action tip is good for a frog or for flipping or pitching. So that kind of sums it up. I mean, you got moderate is more of a parabolic bend. Fast is a little bit more like that, like just towards the upper third of the rod, and then extra fast is more towards the upper fourth of the rod that bends when you first set the hook, and then it gets to the power of the backbone. That's where you get the meat and you get them moving.
All right, JJ. Well, that was very informative, very demonstrative. Helped me even understand the different tips or actions. Very helpful information. Is there anything you want to close on? Just some general.
I think just the thing to remember is the smaller the diameter of the hook or the treble hook rods, you want more flex in your rod because it's more forgiving when they pull, especially smallmouth or fish that are jumping or fighting close to the boat. You want a little bit more flex because it allows a little bit more room for your own error. If you tried throwing a crankbait on extra fast action, I feel like you'd get your heart broke more often than not.
So you demonstrated with rigged up rods, and let's say they're at the store. What's a good practice to do at the store that's not going to hurt the rod, but they can still get a feel for a tip?
You can use a counter or the floor. Grab a rod in each hand and gently push the tip so that you're bending the tip. And if you put the same amount of pressure on both sides, you can kind of tell which one bends deeper. It's a good way to tell. It does not injure the rod. You don't have to get real aggressive with it. You're going to know pretty quick which one bends easier, deeper into the rod.
Okay, very good. Well, this has been a shorter episode this week, but hopefully you found some good value in it. We will be back next Tuesday with another episode of Strategic Angling presented by K&K. My name is Brady, and I've been joined by JJ, and we're going to sign off.
Thanks, guys.